Brothers and sisters of Africa, sons and daughters of the red soil, I speak to you not as a ruler, not as a man wearing medals and titles, but as your brother, a son of this earth that has carried our tears, our sweat, our blood, and our hope. I speak to you as one voice among millions, echoing the same ancient cry that our ancestors whispered beneath the burning sun. Freedom, not the freedom written in treaties, not the kind signed on foreign papers, but the freedom that lives in the soul, the freedom to own what is ours, to dream without permission, to walk our land without apology. Look around you, my brothers and sisters. The land you stand upon is not ordinary earth. It is sacred. Beneath your feet lies the story of a continent that refuses to die. A land carved not by maps but by memory. From the shores of Zanzibar to the plains of Serengeti, from the depths of the Congo to the dunes of the Sahel, every stone, every river, every tree remembers the struggles of those who came before us. And yet, after all these centuries, we still fight the same battle. Though the chains now come dressed in contracts, and the colonizers now speak of aid instead of empire. They build their roads, but the roads lead to our mines. They build their ports, but the ships sail away with our gold. They bring their loans, but they take our land as collateral. They tell us it is partnership, but a partnership where one man owns the table and the other is asked to bring his plate is no partnership at all. It is servitude dressed as friendship. And so I say to you, enough. For too long, Africa has been the story others tell. They write our history in their newspapers. They define our leaders through their cameras. They describe our nations not by our strength, but by our suffering. They call us developing, but what they mean is dependent. They call us unstable, but what they fear is unstoppable. Because they know that if Africa ever stands united, the balance of this world will shift forever. My brothers and sisters, I speak to you from the heart of a small nation that once knelt. A nation that was told to stay quiet, to stay grateful, to stay obedient. A nation that was fed promises of progress while its people dug holes in the earth for others' wealth. But we decided to rise. We decided to say no. We decided that dignity is worth more than dollars, that pride is worth more than praise, and that a poor man standing tall is richer than a king who bows. They laughed at us. They said we would fail. They said our economy would crumble, that our people would starve, that our government would fall apart. But they did not understand that hunger is not the same as defeat, that poverty is not the same as weakness, that when a people believe in themselves, truly believe, no weapon, no sanction, no lie can conquer them. And so we built not walls, but willpower, not empires, but unity. We learned to defend not just our borders, but our belief that Africa does not need to beg to be respected, that Africa's destiny is not to be managed by others, but to be written by its own sons and daughters. Tanzania, my beloved brothers and sisters of the great lake and the mountain that touches the sky, your land is blessed. Beneath your soil lies the treasure of nations, oil that burns like the sun, gas that breathes like the wind, gold that glows like the dawn. But remember this. Resources are not wealth until they belong to the people. If your gold builds foreign palaces, you remain poor. If your oil lights foreign cities, you remain in darkness. If your land feeds others while your children go hungry, you remain enslaved. True freedom is not declared. It is defended, and you must defend it. Not with guns, but with unity. Not with hate, but with pride. The day Tanzanians decide that every grain of their soil, every drop of their oil, every ounce of their labor will serve Tanzania first. That day you will not just change your nation. You will change Africa, because when one African nation stands tall, it becomes a mirror for others to see what is possible. The youth of Tanzania, hear me clearly. You are not the future. You are the present. You are the heartbeat of this revolution that is not fought on battlefields, but in classrooms, in farmlands, in technology labs, in the courage to stay and build rather than flee and beg. Do not let anyone convince you that your worth is measured in visas or in Western approval. Your worth is in your work, your pride, your resilience. They will come to you again. The men in suits, the consultants, the experts, the donors. They will smile. They will speak of partnership, of progress, of development. But read between their words and you will see the same hunger, the hunger to own what is yours. They do not fear your poverty, they fear your potential, because they know that when Africa rises, their empires of control crumble. And so I say, rise. Rise, Tanzania. Rise not in anger, but in awakening. Rise not against the world, but for yourselves. Rise because your ancestors planted this soil with the blood of struggle and the seeds of greatness. Rise because your children deserve to inherit not a nation of dependence, but a nation of dignity. Rise because the world cannot ignore a people who know who they are. This is the age of reclamation, when Africa stops asking for permission to exist. When we stop defining ourselves by what others think, when we stop measuring progress by how much aid we receive, and start measuring it by how much pride we restore. When the black child grows up knowing that his color is not a curse but a crown. My brothers and sisters, the wind is changing. From the deserts of Niger to the mountains of Kilimanjaro, a storm is rising. It carries the voices of a generation tired of being pitied, tired of being managed, tired of being told to wait. That wind carries a new word, sovereignty. Not as a slogan, but as a way of life, and I say to you, guard it. Guard your land, your voice, your unity. For freedom is not something you win once. It is something you must defend every single day. When they come with promises, remember your past. When they come with contracts, read their history. When they come with aid, ask who benefits them. Because this time, brothers and sisters, Africa must not kneel. Africa must stand. Music rises, drums, chants of unity in the background. And when that dawn comes, when the sun rises over a continent no longer bound by fear, the world will remember this moment. The moment when a people, long underestimated, decided to reclaim what was theirs. The moment when Africa looked in the mirror and saw not weakness but wonder, not shame but strength, not the remnants of empire, but the architects of tomorrow. And they will say, here in the heart of Africa, freedom was not given. It was reborn. My brothers and sisters, as I look into the faces of our people, the farmers, the mothers, the workers, the students, I see a fire that no empire could ever extinguish. That fire, that sacred flame of resilience, has survived the centuries of deception, the storms of betrayal, and the endless attempts to break us. But what they could not understand is that Africa's strength does not lie in its resources. It lies in its spirit, a spirit forged in the heat of struggle, tested by centuries of chains, yet reborn with every generation that refuses to forget. Our story has never been one of despair. It is one of defiance. And tonight, under the stars that once guided our ancestors through deserts and seas, I tell you this, we are the children of that defiance, and our time has come. When the world gave us ultimatums, we answered with unity. When they tried to divide us with fear, we answered with faith. And when they told us that Africa was too weak to rise, we answered with action. The world has watched in silence as Africa learned to stand again, not through violence, but through vision. The vision of a continent that feeds itself, powers itself, educates itself, and defends itself not with weapons of war, but with weapons of wisdom. For every bullet fired at our dignity, we have answered with a classroom built, a field cultivated, a factory opened, a young mind awakened. They have measured progress in profits. We have measured it in pride, and now they tremble, not because of our armies, but because of our awakening. For centuries, they controlled Africa by making us forget who we are. They erased our stories, replaced our heroes, distorted our languages, and taught us that salvation comes from beyond the sea. But today, our children learn that salvation comes from within, that the land of Timbuktu once taught the world mathematics, that the libraries of Egypt once defined science, that the kingdoms of Mali and Songhai once ruled with justice and wisdom, while Europe still wandered in darkness. They don't want us to remember that, because knowledge is the first step toward liberation. So I tell the youth of Africa, rise with your minds as your weapons. Write your destiny with your pens. Build your defense with your unity. Because in this new age, the true revolution is not in the streets. It is in education, in innovation, in reclaiming the power of creation. The world once came to Africa for gold, for diamonds, for ivory. Now they come for your ideas, your music, your culture, your energy. Protect it, value it. Never trade it for validation. And to my brothers and sisters in the diaspora, you have not been forgotten. The blood that runs through you is the same red river that runs through us. You are Africa, no matter where you stand. The chains may have carried your ancestors across the ocean, but they did not carry your soul. It remained here in the heartbeat of the continent, waiting for the day you would return. Not in ships, but in spirit. And that day has come. The drums of home are calling. From Kingston to Chicago, from London to Lagos, from Port-au-Prince to Dakar, Africa calls her children back to the table of unity. You are not outsiders. You are family. And in this family, every voice matters. Let the nations that once divided us now witness our rebirth. Let them see that the borders they drew in the dust no longer define us. We are not French Africa or British Africa or Arab Africa. We are not defined by the languages of our colonizers. We are Africa, one heartbeat, one people, one destiny. From the Gold Coast to the Horn, from the Sahel to the Cape, the drumbeat of unity grows louder. The Sahel Alliance rises not as a coalition of soldiers, but as a movement of souls, men and women who believe that Africa must no longer be dictated to, but must decide for itself. And yes, they will try to stop us. They will whisper that we are too radical, that we are dreamers, that we are dangerous. But remember this, every revolution begins as a dream in the heart of those who refuse to kneel. The first man who spoke of independence was called a rebel. The first woman who demanded equality was called defiant. The first nation that said no to empire was called foolish. And yet history remembers them not as rebels, but as pioneers. We must become the new pioneers. We must build systems that serve our people, not systems that mimic our oppressors. We must learn to trade with one another before we trade with the world. We must build universities that teach African solutions to African problems. We must invest in our farmers, our engineers, our scientists, our artists, for they are the true soldiers of the new dawn. The future of Africa will not be written in foreign parliaments. It will be written in our classrooms, our factories, our villages, and our hearts. To the leaders who still bow to the old masters, I say this with no hatred. Wake up. The time of dependency has ended. Your loyalty to those who exploit your people is not leadership. Your silence in the face of injustice is not diplomacy. Your comfort while your citizens suffer is not peace. It is betrayal. The world will not respect a leader who sells his people for applause. Leadership is not measured by how often you are invited to foreign conferences, but by how many of your people can eat, work, and live with dignity. The throne does not make the king, the people do. To the global powers who claim to guide democracy, we say, Africa will not be lectured anymore. We do not need lessons from those whose empires were built on the bones of our ancestors. We do not need pity. We do not need approval. We need fairness, respect, and the right to chart our own course. We extend a hand of friendship, but we will not extend it in chains.